How important was Scientology?
Oh, extraordinarily important.
Hubbard taught you?
Well, his writings and
yeah.
teachings taught me tremendous things. Again, about realistically what I feel is happening in the world, and I guess taught me about supporting the good things and the positive things, and being aware of negative input too. You know, I suddenly became acutely aware of the potential of potential psychoses on people's parts and things like that toward others, myself, you know.
Most people don't understand what it is.
Yeah, and of course, you know, I've said for 23 years now, they must read a book.
Yeah, and the book to read is?
Oh, you could read What is Scientology? It's a book about that thick that answers every question you could possibly think of, positive or negative. And I would love for people finally to just read it and say, you know, and answer their own questions by reading it as opposed to going by hearsay. I think bias and slanted ideas on it is so sophomoric. Really, you know, it's I've never understood it. You know, the idea of you take a well-respected news show, and you take 5 or 6 people, let's say, that are disgruntled with a religion.
This is 2020, the piece they did?
Yeah, or any other piece that has maybe over the years been
critical, very critical.
And then you say, okay, now there's 8 million people that are happy with this thing. But these 5 you've searched for, and you have, you know, maybe even some of these 5 have been offered that if you paid the money, they would not talk derogatorily about it. I mean, you know, where are they, A? And B, why would you allow such a slanted viewpoint? That's bizarre to me. It's not even fair professional input. You know, it's strange.
Have you talked about it before when they've come to you to talk about it? I mean, at those times, at those magazine programs or news programs, did pieces about it? I mean, have you resisted being there to defend it in the way you did because you didn't want to talk about it and you left it to other people to talk?
I've always talked about it. Yeah. I've never not shied away from it, as I'm not shying away from it right now. I love talking about something that's helped me to the degree it has helped me and so many others.
Helped you because it gives you what?
Well, again, you know, trying to explain what it's about is trying to explain the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Or any other religion or any other set of beliefs.
You're talking about trying to nutshell something that would, you know, one should really read about and make their own decision about what it is for them or not or whatever. But I'm just responding to a kind of prejudice that I find bizarre in this day and age.
There are people who are fearful, at least in those accounts you read, fearful, believe it's coercive, believe all kinds of things that are attributed to other organizations that have been defined as cults.
Right. However, but you're looking at 5 or 6 viewpoints versus 8 million. Why not take a majority viewpoint? Why have such an unbalanced...
Fair to say that if those accounts were a true reflection of Scientology, you would not be a part of it.
Absolutely, nor would Tom Cruise or Kirstie Alley or Nicole Kidman or, you know, Priscilla Presley or any of the people that I know that I either influenced, you know, introduced to or not. I think they're upstanding people that are decent fellows and smart and would never, I think that they're big on making their own minds up, what they would do and not do. You know, and it's strange to me, to the accusations of anything. I mean, do we look like we're, you know, coerced into anything?
You have to engage in mind control over some people.
I mean, please. I mean, it's so silly to me. And
did you bring Tom to Scientology?
No, his ex-wife did. However, I did help along the way because I you know, did encourage it and led him to some books and things that I felt he would be insightful to him about it. And then he made his own decision again. But, you know, again, you're talking about very strong people here, you know, and none of us were connected.
And people with resources and...
Absolutely, you know, and also the concept of defending something is strange to me because it doesn't need defending, you know. It just needs proper observation and fair observation.
Some would say, if they listen to you and I having this conversation, they say, is it possible that there's an aspect of this that John does not know about? These things could be going on and he doesn't know about them.
Well, look, you take the, what's the premise of Scientology? A world without war, criminality, and insanity. That's the idea, the goals. I like those goals. I don't want a world with war or crime or insanity. And all the teachings lead toward that. And I have found for 23 years, not to, I mean, you know, we're all aware people, and we're all, you know, smart enough to know what and judge what we see is going on or not. We know each other and a lot of people involved in it. And look, Christianity had a lot of problems its first 50 years. Do you know what I mean? This is 50 years old.
Still does.
Yes. So I mean, you're not talking about something that, you know, this has been proven over the years to be touchy when someone starts something that is interesting and new, and not just in religions, in other fields as well, I think. You
are said to have wanted to make a film about Hubbard's book, a science fiction.
Well, yeah, you see, that has nothing to do with Scientology. The book.
It's just a book that he wrote that's about
it's a science fiction book. Maybe, I think, if I'm not wrong, the best-selling science fiction book ever. You know, or at least one of the top 2 or 3, called Battlefield Earth, and it is exactly what his creative outflow was before Scientology. But he wrote this in 1980, but he also made a living in the 30s and 40s writing all sorts of fiction and science fiction.
What was it that the president said to you about Scientology when you brought up the notion of, you know, that what was happening in Germany seemed to be unreasonable and unfair in terms of...
Yeah, well, I thought that was really quite interesting, because at the time I was midstream of filming Primary Colors, and I met the president, and he said, I really don't like what's happening over there.
What was happening?
Well, at that time there seemed to be, and because the government has changed,
banned it or something.
Yeah, and all sort of tactics that seemed government sanctioned, and anyway, it's good now because it's in transition and things are going to be better.
With the new government and
yes.
Schroeder government replaced it.
Exactly.
Helmut Kohl.
Exactly.
And things are changing, you think?
Yeah, because we feel that there's a much more liberal approach toward, you know, much more of a tolerance toward religions. Because it wasn't just us. You know, it was charismatic Christians. It was the Hasidic Jews. It was there were several minority religions that were having issues, not just us. But we are often the most vocal, and so therefore I think that was part of what got a lot of press. But anyway, back to the president, he basically said, I'll see what I can do to, you know. But he said I knew. He said I had a roommate years ago that was a Scientologist, and he
at Georgetown.
No,
Oxford.
England, Oxford.
Yeah, Oxford, right.
And he said, I thought he was a great guy, and I guess he knew a couple other people, and he said, you and Cruz seem like good people, and, you know, it just doesn't seem right. Something seems wrong. And I just was so taken by that and appreciative of that willingness to do it. And I think not only from his possible efforts, but our group, too, going to Washington and trying to use the bureaucracy as best we could in our favor, we did get some movement, you know, even before the government changed.
Yeah, I think he enabled you to talk to Sandy.
Oh, yeah.
The National Security Advisor.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. The president's troubles today, what do you think?
I like our president, and I admire him, and I think he's done a great job. And I just don't think that this has anything to do with what matters in continuing to get keep our country going. And I feel like the majority of the people do in this country. At least the last count was 72%. And I think we should let it alone and go by the statistics. Go by the product. Go by how what has been proven has been delivered to keep us all going in the northern direction with positive survival. And I think that's what should be the criteria, not personal conduct. And I just think it's his own business. And I think that as far as the personal side, first of all, who doesn't lie about sex in a puritanical country, that kind of country we live in? We're not allowed to tell the complete truth. You know, if I say, well, with your fiance or girlfriend or wife, you know, what are the details about what you did last? Well, you do this, you know. You don't want to get into that, you know, because we're not
comfortable telling.
We never have
lives.
been, you know. I mean, in Europe, where they laugh at us because we're not comfortable telling it, but we're very, you know, different.
They also laugh at us because they're not judgmental about it.
They're not judgmental, and we are unfortunately very judgmental. And I'd like to see the first person that could go in there and have a completely clean background without anything to pull out. I mean, I think it's a little scary and ludicrous.
It's unhealthy for the country that we engage in a kind of what some are now defining as sexual McCarthyism in the politics now, as people began to line up to run in 2000.
Right.
You know, I mean, that specter is there in terms of how that race might be.
It's just
shaped.
unrealistic to think that the criteria would have to be this. And also, let's not forget, you know, earlier presidents and powerful people have. What's the difference? It wasn't found out or something. Do you know?
From Jefferson forward.
Absolutely. So I don't know. That's. I said I wouldn't have a comment, and there I had lots of comments.
We started off talking about your dad and your mom and how they gave you this sort of confidence, and at your lowest point, you never doubted your professional abilities, and that it would all work out in some way or some form for you in your chosen profession.
Right.
We talked about Scientology too, as how that had served you during, you know, a life that you have lived.